The storm came without warning. Wind howled through the mountain valley, tearing through pine and stone, carrying with it the scent of iron and magic. Inside a lonely wooden cabin, a woman labored on the floor, her cries echoing between flashes of lightning. "Please," she whispered to the midwife beside her, "don't let them find her, not tonight." The midwife's hands trembled. "Ilara, you know what the elders said." "I know," the mother breathed, her voice breaking. "But she is mine. My child will not die for their fear." Another bolt of lightning split the sky, followed by the thin, fragile wail of a newborn. The storm seemed to pause, just for a heartbeat, before thunder answered like a god's roar. The woman looked down at the infant in her arms. The child's eyes were silver, too bright for any human, too ancient for her tiny body. And there, glowing faintly on her shoulder, was a mark, a crescent-shaped scar that shimmered crimson under the blood moon's light. Ilara's heart cracked, the mark of the Alpha Queen. She whispered, tears spilling freely now. The curse they swore was gone. The midwife stepped back in fear. "You have to hide her, Ilara. If the Alpha sees that scar, he'll know what she is. I know what he'll do." Ilara said, her tone fierce despite her exhaustion. "He'll hunt her before she can even walk." She pressed her lips to the baby's forehead, her voice breaking into a prayer only the storm could hear. "Forgive me, my moonlight. I cannot protect you forever, but I will hide you, and when your time comes, may the moon guide you home." Outside, wolves howled, low guttural, closing in. The midwife gasped. "They are here." Ilara rose, clutching the infant tight against her chest. The mark pulsed once, like a heartbeat of fire beneath the baby's skin. "Take her," she said, thrusting the child into the midwife's arms. "There's a river behind the ridge. Follow it until the forest turns black. There's an old cabin there. Leave her with the healer who lives alone. She owes me her life. Ilara, you can't." The woman's eyes flared with the last light of her wolf. "Go." Now, the door burst open. The storm screamed in, and as the midwife disappeared into the rain with the child, Ilara turned toward the shadows of the approaching wolves. Her last whisper carried on the wind. She must never know what she is, not until the Alpha does. Thunder drowned the world, and in that violent, beautiful chaos, the legend of the scarred child began. Morning crept over the valley like a hesitant promise. Mist curled above the trees, softening the scars left by last night's storm. Far from that wild night years ago, the great stone mansion of the Silverfang pack stood proud against the pale sky, its banners whispering beneath the dawn breeze. Inside, servants hurried through polished corridors, their footsteps echoing over marble and old secrets. Among them moved Lyra, quiet, small, and invisible by design. She kept her eyes low, her motions careful. Beneath the coarse linen of her sleeve, a faint heat pulsed against her shoulder. The scar never truly slept. "Girl, the Alpha's chambers need fresh water before the meeting," the headmaid barked. "Yes, mistress," Lyra murmured, balancing the copper jug against her hip. She moved quickly, though every step nearer to him made her pulse tighten. Alpha Kale was a man born of command, the kind whose mere presence bent air and silence alike. Rumor said his wolf could crush bone with a thought. Rumor said he never smiled. Lyra hoped never to test either truth. The door to his chambers was half open. She slipped inside, keeping her breathing shallow. The room smelled of pine resin and rain. She poured water into the basin, careful not to glance toward the massive desk. "You're new?" His voice was low, smooth, and dangerous. She froze. He was there, standing by the window, sunlight catching the edge of his black hair, his gaze a predator's calm curiosity. "Yes, Alpha," she whispered. Kale tilted his head. "You smell different." Panic licked her spine. Her wolf stirred, pushing against the fragile wall she'd built for years. "Forgive me, Alpha. I'll finish and leave." He stepped closer, the air thickening between them. "What are you hiding?" Her hand trembled, splashing water onto the floor. "Nothing, my lord." His gaze dropped briefly to her covered shoulder. For an instant, something ancient flickered behind his eyes, an instinct half remembered, half denied. Then he turned away, dismissing her with a curt nod. "Go." Lyra bowed and fled into the corridor, heart hammering, sleeve burning where the scar throbbed beneath the cloth. Outside, the wind carried the distant call of wolves, an old echo of the night she'd never been allowed to remember. She pressed her palm to the mark, whispering to herself, "Stay hidden, stay human. No one must ever know. But deep within the mansion, Alpha Kale's wolf lifted its head and growled softly, tasting the air she'd left behind. Something inside him recognized her, and it would not rest. By the next morning, the mansion was alive with talk. Servants whispered over steaming pots, traded rumors between broomstrokes, and let fear dress itself as curiosity. Lyra could feel their eyes on her, sliding across her covered shoulder, lingering too long on the bandage that peeked from her sleeve. She never bathes with the others. One maid muttered, "Maybe she's got a sickness." Another replied, "Or something worse," hissed the third. I saw her flinch when the Alpha looked at her, like she knew him before. The words clawed at Lyra's chest as she scrubbed the stone steps. She kept her head down, her jaw tight, but the scar pulsed again, hot, warning, alive. It had been doing that more often lately, ever since he'd spoken to her. She didn't understand it. The Alpha's voice shouldn't have had power over her. Yet something deep inside had responded, trembling like it remembered him. "Lyra," she startled. A sharp voice sliced through her thoughts. It belonged to Nerissa, a senior maid with beauty sharp as a blade and a heart carved from jealousy. "You missed a spot," Nerissa sneered, pointing to the marble floor. "Useless, as always." "I'm sorry," Lyra murmured. "Oh, you will be," Nerissa whispered, leaning closer. "What's under that sleeve, servant? A lover's bite, or the mark of a traitor?" Lyra stiffened. The air between them seemed to shiver. Her heartbeat quickened until she swore the whole hall could hear it. "Show us, then," Nerissa taunted, her voice rising. "What are you hiding?" Several servants stopped to watch. Lyra stepped back, clutching her sleeve. "Leave me alone." Nerissa lunged forward, fingers grabbing at the cloth. In an instant, Lyra's wolf surged, the faintest flicker of gold flashing in her eyes. A ripple of power trembled through the air, subtle but unmistakable. Nerissa stumbled backward, gasping as if struck. "W. What was that?" Lyra's breath came ragged. "Don't touch me." Before anyone could speak, a deep voice echoed from the corridor. "Enough." The servants scattered like startled birds. Alpha Kale stood in the doorway, gaze sweeping the room. His eyes found Lyra, wide, fearful, glowing faintly with something he couldn't name. For a long heartbeat, neither of them moved. The silence stretched like a held breath. Then he spoke, voice rougher than before. "You, at the moon feast tonight. All servants will attend." Lyra's throat went dry. "Alpha, please." That was not a request. When he left, the echo of his command lingered behind him like thunder after lightning. And as the others resumed their work, Lyra stood trembling, sleeve still warm, heart pounding with dread. The moon feast. A night of firelight, vows, and eyes that saw everything. The mansion had never felt heavier. By nightfall, its halls glowed with torchlight and gold banners. The moon feast came once a year, a sacred night, when every wolf, born or bonded, gathered beneath the moon to renew their loyalty to the Alpha. It was supposed to be a celebration. For Lyra, it felt like a sentence. She stood in her small quarters, trembling fingers wrapping yet another length of linen around her shoulder. The scar beneath it pulsed like a trapped heartbeat. "Please," she whispered to the mark, "just stay still. Don't burn tonight. Don't show them." The sound of drums drifted through the window, low, rhythmic, and ancient. She could already hear the laughter from the courtyard, smell the roasted meat and burning pine. The pack was gathering, and she was expected to stand among them. A soft knock came at her door. Lyra, it was Mira, one of the few servants who showed her kindness. The girl slipped inside, eyes darting nervously. "You're not dressed. If the mistress finds you, I can't go." Lyra breathed. "If I stand under that firelight, someone will see." "See what?" Mira asked softly. Lyra's lips parted, but no sound came. She shook her head instead. "Nothing. Forget I said anything." Outside, the Alpha's voice rose deep, commanding, echoing through the open courtyard. "All servants will attend. Every wolf under my roof will bow before the moon." Even from here, his tone made her pulse skip. She could feel him, the strange pull in her chest that had only grown stronger since the day he first looked at her. It wasn't just fear anymore. It was something far more dangerous. She stepped out into the night, joining the river of servants heading toward the courtyard. Silver light spilled over them all, the moon hanging fat and full above the mountain. Alpha Kale stood at the center, broad, shouldered and solemn, firelight flickering in his eyes. His gaze swept the crowd and then paused on her. Lyra's breath hitched. The noise around her seemed to fade. For one brief, terrifying moment, she swore the air between them trembled like recognition. Then Kale spoke, voice rough but steady. Let the feast begin. The crowd erupted in cheers, but Lyra barely heard them. She felt only the pulse beneath her bandages growing hotter, stronger, alive. The scar she had hidden for years was waking beneath the Alpha's gaze. The courtyard blazed with firelight. Torches ringed the ancient stone circle where the Silverfang pack gathered. Their voices lifted in celebration and song. But to Lyra, every flame felt like an eye, watching, judging, waiting to uncover what she hid. She stood among the servants, head bowed, trying to steady her breathing. Around her, laughter rolled through the night. Wolves in fine silks and leather raised their goblets to the Alpha. At the center of it all stood Kale, tall and unyielding, a crown of dark steel glinting against the moon. His voice carried easily across the crowd. Tonight, under the moon's blessing, we remember who we are. One pack, one bond, one blood. The wolves roared in unison. Lyra's heart beat faster, echoing the drums. Each word of loyalty and unity pierced her like a knife. She had no place here. Servants, the head maid barked. Step forward to kneel. Lyra hesitated, clutching her sleeve. When she finally moved, her foot caught on the edge of her skirt. She stumbled forward, the copper jug in her hands crashing against the stone floor. The courtyard fell silent. Dozens of eyes turned to her, servants, guards, warriors, and then Kale's. Who is that? He demanded. Lyra's voice came out a whisper. Forgive me, Alpha. I slipped. Nerissa's voice sliced through the quiet like venom. That's her, the new girl who hides her arm. Before Lyra could react, Nerissa stepped close and yanked at her sleeve. The linen tore, gasps rippled through the crowd, the scar blazed against her pale skin, crimson and crescent, shaped, glowing faintly beneath the moonlight. For one terrible second no one moved. Then Kale's wolf surged to the surface, eyes flaring gold. By the moon, he breathed, voice trembling between fury and disbelief. The cursed mark. Lyra stumbled back, shaking her head. No, please, I'm not. Silence. His growl silenced the courtyard. That mark is forbidden. It belongs to the bloodline that destroyed half our kind. Tears burned her eyes. I didn't choose this. I swear. I never wanted. You lie. His voice was a blade. I reject you. The words hit harder than a blow. The mark on her shoulder pulsed once, then dimmed as if the moon itself mourned. Lyra's knees buckled. Around her murmurs rose, fear, disgust, pity. Kale turned away, chest heaving, his wolf snarling inside him. Lyra ran, through the torches, through the gasps, into the cold forest beyond the gates. Behind her, the pack's howls rose into the night, and the Alpha's heart twisted in a way he didn't yet understand. The forest swallowed her whole. Lyra ran until her lungs burned, until her feet were raw, and the sound of her heartbeat drowned out the pack's fading howls. The moon hung above her like an accusing eye, silver light spilling over the tangled roots and mist-shrouded ground. She fell to her knees beside a frozen stream, chest heaving. Her reflection shimmered on the dark surface, pale face, wild hair, and that cursed scar, glowing faintly like an ember beneath her skin. He rejected me, she whispered. He really, her voice cracked, he rejected me. Her hand trembled as she touched the scar. It burned hotter beneath her fingers, pulsing in time with her heartbeat. Then pain, it came suddenly, searing and brutal. Bones creaked, veins shimmered with silver light. Her vision blurred as her body convulsed, her fingers clawing at the dirt. No, not now, please. The wolf inside her howled, furious and desperate to be free. Images flashed through her mind. An ancient battle, a burning forest, the silhouette of a woman with the same mark blazing across her chest. A voice echoed within her, soft but commanding. You can't hide forever, my child. The moon remembers. Lyra screamed, clutching her arm as the mark flared white, hot. The air around her shivered, frost cracked along the stones, power, awe untamed, dribbled through her veins, but before she could surrender to it, a shadow burst through the trees. Lyra, Cale's voice. Her head snapped up, eyes glowing faint gold. He froze at the sight of her. The pain, the light, the mark alive with ancient power. Stay back, she gasped, every muscle trembling. I can't control it. Cale's wolf pushed against his skin, torn between instinct and guilt. He had followed her scent through the forest, half out of duty, half because something deep inside him refused to let her go. Listen to me, he growled, stepping closer. You're shifting for the first time. You have to breathe. Don't fight it. Lyra's voice broke. You said I was cursed. He hesitated. I was wrong. Her body twisted again, the world spinning as pain and light collided. Then suddenly, Cale was there, wrapping his arms around her, grounding her in the chaos. His warmth fought back the cold, his scent wrapping around her like a promise she couldn't believe. Slowly, the burning subsided, the glow dimmed. Lyra collapsed against him, breath ragged. Why did you come? Cale's jaw tightened, because no wolf, cursed or not, faces their first shift alone. Their eyes met, the air trembling with something unspoken. And somewhere deep in the forest, the moon whispered this is only the beginning. Cale couldn't sleep. The forest had gone still, yet the echo of her scream lingered in his mind, sharper than any blade. He paced outside the healer's hut, the smell of rain and pine heavy in the air. Inside, Lyra lay motionless on the cot, her skin pale, her breath shallow but steady. She looked fragile now, nothing like the girl who had defied him before the entire pack. And yet, when he'd held her, when her power had flared beneath his hands, he'd felt something ancient answer deep inside his chest, something his wolf couldn't ignore. Alpha, said the healer softly, bowing as she stepped out. Her wounds are deep, but not fatal. Still, that mark of hers burns like moonfire. It's no ordinary scar. I know. His voice was low, rough. Leave us. When the door shut, Cale moved closer. He crouched beside her bed, his hand hovering above the faint glow of the crescent-shaped scar. He remembered the night his father had told him about the cursed bloodline. Wolves born with the moon's mark, said to bring ruin to any alpha they bonded with. It was that story that had made him reject her so violently before the pack. But now, that same mark had saved her life when she almost lost control. He clenched his fists. What if the curse was never real? What if it was a lie to keep something hidden? Lyra stirred, her lashes fluttering. When her eyes opened, fear flickered first, then confusion. You stayed. Her voice was hoarse. Cale looked away. You almost changed. If I hadn't. He stopped himself, jaw tightening. I did what any alpha would do. No, she whispered. You did what a man with guilt would do. Her words struck deep. For a moment, the room was silent except for the storm rolling outside. Finally, Cale rose to his feet, his expression unreadable. Rest. At dawn, you'll be taken beyond the borders. Lyra froze. You're sending me away. It's for your safety. And the pack's. Her voice trembled, but her eyes held steady. You're afraid of me. Cale didn't answer because she was right. As he turned to leave, the mark on her shoulder flared faintly again, and his own chest seared in response, as though the same moonfire lived inside him too. He staggered, clutching his shirt, breath shallow. Lyra saw it. What was that? But Cale was already gone, his wolf howling inside him, not with fury this time, but with fear. Because deep down, he knew the truth he'd been raised to deny. The alpha's blood and the cursed blood were bound by fate. The dawn came cold and silver, spilling light over the mountains that framed the crimson moon pack. Mist coiled low through the trees, wrapping the world in silence. Lyra sat on the edge of the healer's bed, clutching the rough blanket around her shoulders. Every muscle ached, but not from the wounds. It was the emptiness that hurt, the echo of Cale's rejection that still pulsed through her chest. He had saved her life only to banish her at sunrise, but fate, it seemed, had other plans. The healer returned quietly, carrying a tray of herbs. You should be resting. I can't, Lyra murmured. I need answers. That mark. She glanced at her shoulder, where faint moonlight still shimmered under her skin. It reacts to him, to Alpha Cale. The healer hesitated, her gaze flickering toward the closed door. There are things I was told never to speak of. Lyra stepped closer, voice trembling but fierce. Please, I can't live hiding from what I am anymore. After a long pause, the healer sighed and opened a small chest near the wall. From it, she drew a leather-bound scroll, so old the edges had turned brittle. This belonged to the first Alpha Queen, she whispered. Before your time, before even the pack was divided, it speaks of a curse and a promise. Lyra's fingers shook as she unfolded it. The faded ink told of Lunara, the Moon Queen, an alpha female who had defied the gods by choosing love over power. Her rebellion had ended in blood. Before she died, she sealed her bloodline with a mark, a scar that would only awaken when the true alpha of her line appeared again. And then Lyra saw the final line, scrawled in ancient ink. Only when moon and blood unite will the curse end, and the pack be whole once more. Her heart pounded, moon and blood, alpha and queen. Kale, she whispered, he bears the same blood, that's why the scar burns when he's near. The healer nodded slowly. Your scar isn't a curse, child, it's a claim. You carry the mark of the lost Alpha Queen, and his blood calls to yours. The door slammed open. Kale stood there, wild-eyed, rain dripping from his hair. You've been digging through my ancestors' secrets, he said, voice low and dangerous. Lyra's hand trembled, but she didn't hide the scroll. Your ancestors kept me hidden, kept all of this hidden. You rejected me for what you feared. But it's your blood that binds us, Kale. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. The storm outside cracked, thunder echoing through the valley. Then Kale stepped forward, eyes glowing gold. If what you say is true, then fate has made a cruel game of us both. His hand brushed the edge of her scar. The glow flared. Bright, fierce, blinding, and the ground trembled beneath them. From deep within the woods, a wolf's howl rose. Not of Kale's pack, but something older, something awakened. Cliffhanger end. The ancient curse stirs as their bloodlines react, hinting that the prophecy has only begun. The storm had not passed. It merely hid behind the mountains, waiting. By dusk, the pack's territory hummed with tension. Whispers spread like wildfire, the servant girl who bore the moon mark, the alpha who couldn't banish her, and the tremor that had shaken the forest itself. Kale stalked along the training grounds, his wolf pacing beneath his skin. He couldn't stop hearing her voice, the way she'd said your blood binds us. Every word scraped against the iron walls of his control. He'd rejected her once to protect his pack. Now, every instinct screamed that sending her away would destroy them instead. From the shadows of the tree line, Lyra stepped out, cloak drawn tight, eyes glimmering silver in the fading light. You shouldn't be here, Kale growled. I couldn't leave, she said simply. Not when something out there is calling to us. Before he could ask what she meant, the wind shifted. His wolf went rigid. Smoke, iron blood. Kale's eyes snapped toward the northern ridge, and then came the sound. 100 paws crashing through the underbrush. Get behind me, he ordered, voice a low snarl. Figures burst from the darkness, wolves marked with black sigils, the crest of the Nightfang pack, their ancient enemies. They moved with precision, circling, fangs bared. At their center stood a tall man cloaked in crimson leather, his eyes like coals. Alpha Kale, he drawled, we heard whispers of a cursed girl in your den. Thought we'd see if the legends were true. Kale's wolf roared beneath his skin, claws itching to tear. You made a mistake crossing my borders. Oh, the rival Alpha sneered. Then tell me, why does the moon burn red tonight? Kale's breath caught. Above them the clouds tore open, revealing a blood-hued moon identical to the one from Lyra's birth. Lyra gasped. Her scar ignited in light, searing bright through her cloak. The enemy Alpha's smirk faltered. That mark. He hissed. It's real. Kale lunged before he could move another step. The world blurred into violence, claws, blood, the shatter of bone and howl of fury. Wolves collided in the clearing, teeth snapping, bodies slamming into trees. Lyra stumbled back, clutching her shoulder as the scar blazed hotter, the pain unbearable. She could feel something stirring in her veins, not fear, not rage, but power. Kale, she screamed. He turned just in time to see the rival Alpha shift, massive and dark, and leap straight for her. Kale's wolf broke free in a surge of golden light. He collided midair with the attacker, ripping into flesh and fur. The scent of blood filled the clearing, but even as Kale fought, Lyra's power broke loose. The mark on her shoulder pulsed in rhythm with her heart and then exploded outward, a blinding surge of silver fire. Wolves were thrown back like leaves in a gale. The ground split, glowing with moonlight veins. Kale shielded her, but the light wrapped around him too burning, binding. When the glow faded, the Nightfang wolves were retreating into the forest, howling in terror. Kale fell to his knees beside her, panting, his fur dissolving as he returned to human form. "Lyra," he breathed. "What did you do?" She looked up at him, tears streaming down her face, her scar now shaped like a perfect crescent crown. "I didn't," she whispered. "It's waking." The forest echoed with distant howls, hundreds of them, answering the call of something ancient. Cliffhanger end, the rival pack flees, but the awakening power of the Moon Queen draws every wolf across the lands toward Kale's territory, and a reckoning no one can escape. The world was too quiet after the chaos. Smoke curled through the ruined clearing, the metallic scent of blood still thick in the air. The Nightfang wolves had vanished into the trees, but their howls linger, echoes of terror that rolled over the mountains like ghosts. Kale knelt beside Lyra, his hands trembling as he brushed strands of hair from her face. Her eyes were closed, her skin pale except for the faint shimmer beneath the scar that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. "Lyra," he whispered, "stay with me." Her breathing was shallow, but the air around her moved. The leaves swirled even without wind, drawn toward her body as if the forest itself recognized her. Kale's wolf stirred uneasily. "She's not dying," it murmured inside him. "She's changing." A faint silver light spread from the mark across her skin, racing in thin streams up her neck and down her arm. Kale could only watch as the glow deepened, forming ancient runes that pulsed like living veins of moonlight. Then Lyra's eyes snapped open. They weren't brown anymore. They were silver like twin moons reflected in water. Kale stumbled back, heart hammering. Lyra rose slowly, unsteady at first, then taller, straighter. Power rippled off her like heat. The earth beneath her feet glowed, and the scar on her shoulder, once a wound, now gleamed like a crown of fire. Kale's voice came out hoarse. "Lyra, what are you?" She turned toward him, and her voice was layered, hers and something older beneath it. "I am what your ancestors feared." Her gaze drifted to the blood-stained soil. "I am what they tried to bury." The trees bent inward as though bowing to her. The moon broke through the clouds, silver light spilling over her like blessing and curse combined. Kale took a step closer, instinct warring with awe. "You're not cursed." Lyra's lips curved, half smile, half sorrow. "No, we are." Before he could respond, another tremor shook the ground. Shadows flickered through the trees, wolves drawn by the pulse of her power. Dozens of glowing eyes blinked from the darkness. "They're coming," Kale said, his hand going to his blade. Lyra shook her head. "No, they're answering." And then she lifted her hand. The glow from her scar intensified, spreading through the clearing like dawn, chasing away the dark. The enemy wolves froze, whimpering, their aggression dissolving into confusion. Kale watched stunned as she knelt beside one of the wounded wolves, one of the Nightfang, and placed her palm on its chest. The creature's snarling breath softened, its eyes flickering between fury and submission before it rolled onto its back in surrender. "Moon and blood," she whispered, "we are not meant to destroy each other." The light faded, leaving silence behind. Even the air felt changed, cleaner, sharper, heavy with something sacred. Kale stepped forward, his voice rough. "Lyra, that power, it's what the prophecy meant, isn't it?" Her gaze met his, soft but filled with something that broke him apart inside. "It's what we were always meant to share." Then her knees buckled. Kale caught her before she fell, cradling her against his chest as the glow dimmed. He looked up at the blood, red moon above them, its light now paling to silver. "Then fate help us," he murmured, "because the whole realm will come for her now." Far off, a horn sounded, low and ancient, the call of the wolf councils who had felt the awakening. Cliffhanger end. Lyra's power has been unleashed, and now every pack across the lands knows the Moon Queen's bloodline has risen again. The next dawn will bring more than war. It will bring judgment. The council chambers were colder than the night outside. Stone walls rose high, torches flickering against banners that told of centuries of Silverfang rule. Alpha Kale's boots echoed against the floor as he led Lyra inside, her arm entwined with his for balance. All eyes turned toward them. Wolves in silk and leather, older alphas and council elders, their faces carved in suspicion, fear, and judgment. Alpha Kale, one elder hissed, "What is the meaning of this? You bring a cursed girl into the council." Kale's jaw tightened. His wolf growled low beneath the surface. "Cursed," he repeated, voice calm but edged with fire. "This girl is no curse. She is my mate. The blood of the last Alpha Queen flows in her veins, and the moon itself bears witness." Murmurs rippled through the council. Some stepped back, others leaned forward, eager to strike a verbal blow. "You risk your throne for her," another demanded. "The Silverfang bloodline is sacred. You cannot bring this danger here." Kale took a step closer, eyes locked on the council. "I am Alpha," he said, voice rising. "I answer to no one but the moon, and she is mine. Any counselor who would see her harmed will answer to me." The chamber erupted in chaos. Some snarled in fury, others whispered urgently. Lyra's hand gripped his, her own strength trembling against his, steadying him, and herself. Then Kale turned fully to the pack, every word deliberate, commanding, resonant. "She is the blood of the queen who ruled before us, the line that was taken by fear and lies. And now she stands here not as a servant, not as a shadow, but as the rightful mate of the Alpha. I claim her before you. Any who oppose this union will face the consequences of defying the pack and the moon itself." Silence fell. Even the torches seemed to dim, the flames bending toward the declaration as though witnessing history in motion. Lyra's breath caught. Her scar burned faintly beneath her sleeve, glowing as if it recognized the bond finally declared aloud. Kale lowered his hand to hers, fingers brushing over the crescent mark. "Do you see now?" he whispered, his wolf growling softly inside him. "This is not a curse. This is our destiny." The elders' faces shifted, from fury to disbelief, some reluctantly bowing their heads. Murmurs softened into acknowledgement. Lyra dared to meet Kale's eyes. The Alpha she had feared, the one who had rejected her before the pack, now stood entirely at her side. No masks, no hesitation, only unyielding devotion. Her voice was soft but unwavering. "Then I accept. As yours." Kale's hand tightened over hers, heart pounding with relief, pride, and love. He stepped forward, raising his gaze to the moon-lit chamber. Let the pack witness the union of moon and blood. He commanded, every word a promise of protection, power, and devotion. The council bowed. The Silverfang pack howled in unison, a sound of acceptance, of fate fulfilled, of a prophecy begun long ago finally taking its first breath. The full moon hung heavy over the pack lands, silver light spilling across the stone courtyard where the Silverfang wolves had gathered. Torches flickered, casting shadows that danced like ancient spirits over the assembly. Lyra stood at the center, Kale at her side. Her scar had changed. No longer a hidden mark of fear, it now gleamed like a delicate crown across her shoulder, pulsing with soft lunar fire. The centuries, old prophecy had finally awakened, and she could feel it thrumming through her veins. Power, heritage, and destiny intertwining. Kale's hand brushed over hers, grounding her, his eyes, gold and fierce, softened only for her. "Are you ready?" he whispered. Lyra inhaled the crisp night air, heart steady. "I am," she said, "for the pack, for you, for everything I was born to be." The elders stepped forward, chanting words in the old tongue. Wolves bowed, tails low in reverence. Lyra felt the power of the Moon Queen before her ancestors coursed through her, connecting her to the pack, to Kale, to the very earth beneath their paws. Kale drew her closer. "By the moon and by our blood, I claim you as my mate, my queen, and my equal," he declared, voice carrying across the lands. A warm light spilled from the mark on her shoulder, rising like a halo over her form. It stretched across the courtyard, bathing every wolf in silver brilliance. The power of her lineage, long hidden and feared, radiated outward, sealing the bond between Alpha and Queen, between moon and blood. Lyra stepped forward, raising her arms. The air shimmered as her wolf manifested fully for the first time in front of the pack, majestic, radiant, fierce and protective. She lowered her gaze to Kale, voice steady but charged with power. "We are united, and no shadow shall break us." The pack erupted in unified howls, a sound of acceptance, of awe, and of a new dawn. The fear that had once shadowed her life was gone. She was no longer a servant. No longer a girl hiding a scar. She was the queen. Kale bent toward her, lips brushing her temple, his breath warm against her skin. "You are mine, and I am yours, forever." Lyra's heart swelled, tears shining like moonlight on her cheeks. "Forever," she echoed. Above them, the moon shone brighter as if blessing the union. The scar, now transformed into the mark of a crown, pulsed gently one last time before fading to a soft, steady glow, a symbol of her power, her heritage, and the prophecy fulfilled. The Silverfang pack had witnessed the rebirth of their alpha queen, and in her strength, Kale found the mate he had once rejected, but could never truly forget. Together, they stood beneath the full moon, wolves howling at their sides, hearts bound by fate and blood, ready to rule and to love for all the days to come. The prophecy was complete, the curse was broken, and their story had only just begun.